The Entrepreneurial Journey podcast. We're talking business and building a culture that's kick-ass. Where we make it happen, grab your seat, let's have a blast. At the Entrepreneurial Journey podcast.
If you love the entrepreneurial journey, how about subscribing and giving us a 5-star review? Wherever you get your podcasts, follow or subscribe and give us a positive review so more entrepreneurs out there don't need to feel alone. Thanks. Okay, this is your last chance, internet, to get this right, because Eleri and I have been messing about for a good 20 minutes now with various packages to get this recording going. Let me introduce you to the Entrepreneurial Journey podcast and Eleri Cossett. Hello, Eleri. How are you today?
I am good, apart from hating internet, hating anything digital, and wondering why we can't all do face-to-face stuff. But hey, here we are, digital age, what can I say? I'm just like a digital fossil today because, these things, we take them for granted and, when they don't work, we moan. So we've both experienced that this morning, haven't we?
Yeah. I mean, the excuse this morning, I was interviewing somebody in Melbourne and Australia.
Right, okay.
And like,
was that perfect?
No, it wasn't. But it was like, at least you've got an excuse, damn you, internet. But are you in Wales or?
No, I'm in Bath. So it's not that far really.
No.
So yes, we're in the same vicinity. One would think it would work, but as I said, who knows about the internet gremlins these days? I think we just got to be grateful for what we've got, right? Because the majority of time it does work.
It does.
Sitting in the middle of the field in Norfolk or somewhere.
Yeah, I know. So your business is called Love Entrepreneurs.
Yes, it is. Love Entrepreneurs. It's a fellowship. Some people would call it a networking group, but it is not that. It is a fellowship that's been born out of something I sensed was needed in business. This sort of idea of almost like AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, but for business. Where we share our experience, strength, and hope with each other, so that we can all become better business people. So it's a mix of, the secret sauce, or our central tenet, is basically this thing we call the big fix. And the big fix is where businesses of any size description, small, large, it can be just an idea, an embryonic idea. They come along. And they share that idea, and it's free to do. They share that idea with other like-minded entrepreneurs, and they get huge ideas, things that they never even thought about before. So it's not a mastermind group in the classic sense, whereby you've got the same old faces that give high opinions from the chairs. It's very much a fellowship of ideas. And then we do coaching, we do sales training, and we also fund businesses. So we've tried to sort of make it as relaxed as possible, so that we can attract as many people from as many different vistas as possible.
And I joined one the other week, and it was really good fun, and it was lots of different people. It was lots of different people. So I connected with Barry in Trinidad and Tobago, great guy.
Yes.
And I'm being interviewed for a podcast with I think it's Oliver this afternoon.
That's our podcast, the life of I would say a life of a love entrepreneur, life of an entrepreneur.
Yeah. It's amazing. So yeah, it's a good group, definitely. Now, one of the reasons I wanted to get you on the podcast is because your entrepreneurial journey has been bumpier than many, shall we say, and you were very gracious in that you said you were really happy to talk about it. And it involved prison and
yes. Nothing like a good ex-con. Nothing like a good ex-con to icon story, right?
Ex-con to icon. I like that. We'll use that in one of the clips. Ex-con to icon. Right. What happened, Eleri? How did you end up in prison? What was that journey?
Well, basically, I got involved in and accused of running a very large industrial scale commercial cannabis plantation, or groups of plantations. Now, if anybody has ever seen how I can literally make cacti die unintentionally, I should add, to plant lovers, they would have some serious doubts about my ability to grow anything let alone something that actually probably needs to be industrially harvested and looked after because it's a product. And then therefore, if it's corrupted, you can't sell it, right? So, but anyway, I had a very large property portfolio, and I had tenants who were growing cannabis in my properties. I didn't know the tenants were growing cannabis in my properties. The obvious question, quite rightly asked, is should I have known? Well, there's various laws about you can't just walk up to one of your properties and barge in and announce. You've got to give them 48 hours notice in writing. I kept trying to do this, but to no avail. But anyway, the long and the short of it is that I got involved in this in the sense that I was accused of committing a crime. I have averred my innocence throughout and continue to do so. I can hold my head up high. And I can do that because this is, for me, this is a question for me as a human being. I can totally understand that everybody else may have differing views. Indeed, the jury did too, because it unequivocally convicted me. But, because I did have a relationship with one of the protagonists in this entity. And that was because at the time I was dealing a lot with property and the selling of new build property. And that's how I knew this person, and had also been introduced to this person through my own property manager. So you can sort of see how a jury would go, it's a bit too convenient. And we'd also lost millions in a hedge fund that had just gone tits up about 3 years prior to that. So you can sort of see how the rules would have been stacked against us in terms of something that you would deploy to a jury. And it's a shame, really, because, and I think this happens a lot, but had the truth come out, and I think had I been able to afford a private barrister, not on legal aid, I think we could have got to the truth of the matter, because there are a lot of unanswered questions. But the point is, right, I am a serial entrepreneur. I'm a lawyer. I started my life off as a graduate of Russian studies and international politics with German, which was a mistake, because my mother filled in the wrong UCA form. So the rest flowed from there. I was supposed to be doing Spanish from scratch, not Russian from scratch. That's
hilarious.
I know. I did 6 weeks in the sixth form of Russian. I got to the word for hairdresser, which is an 8-syllable word. So parikmacherskaya, which actually, if anybody knows German, it's actually a made-up word. It's not even a Russian word. So anyway, so I gave up Russian in the sixth form, never to want to see it ever again, to find out the next thing I was doing a degree in it from scratch. Right. So I had no choice but to go off and live in Ukraine, not see any Westerners, and just immerse myself. So, my legal career wasn't straightforward either. I went off to set up a law firm for a City of London law firm. I was trying to get, because I spoke Russian, I was trying to get work there, but I didn't fit their mold either. So I ended up going to Kazakhstan as a paralegal, set up a law firm there. And on the back of that, I got a training contract. So everything in my life has been almost, it's a bit like that film, Sliding Doors, right? What would have happened if, what would have happened if? I think we can all ask those questions. So, I can remember my father, who was a newspaper editor, saying to me, God, Eleri, one thing you can certainly say about you is your life has not been boring. Life isn't boring. So, the fact that I get embroiled in a cannabis plantation somewhere along the line, and before that, Britain's largest Ponzi scheme, leaving me with 97 clients, thinking I've just rinsed them for the best part of, £9 million, et cetera, and so forth. You put that legacy of storytelling in front of a jury, let's say, and you can very easily see how they would very readily think, this is not a nice person. This woman speaks fluent Russian. She's Jane Bond to Jimmy Bond. But the point is, I'm very lucky. I'm an alcoholic, a recovering alcoholic. I've reached my anonymity. I'm coming up to 12 years sobriety. And actually, 12 years ago, my life was in a mess. I was drinking alcoholically, and I didn't want to live. So the biggest gift I've ever been given was the gift of sobriety, because it made me realize that whatever I've got or haven't got, it doesn't matter. As long as I have sobriety, and breath in me, I have a chance. And that's thankfully happened about a year and a half before I had to stand trial, and before all this happened and people came barreling through our door at 5 o'clock in the morning. So I went to prison with this vision of, look, you know, this is like an anthropological exercise, nothing more, nothing less. It's just an opportunity to act in a way, a very humbling one, because look, I'd had millions. I'd experienced what it was like to live and never have to go to a supermarket and look at what the prices were. You know, I'd seen poverty on the streets of Bath, on the streets of London, but like the Phil Collins song, I sort of quickly, you know, I would just shell out my 10 quid or 20 quid or whatever, not think anything more of it, think that my conscience had been absolved, and that was the end of it. So in a way, going to prison was it enabled me to really experience, you know, firsthand what poverty does to people, what lack of opportunity really does to people, what happens when people have got brilliant ideas but no money to bring these ideas forward so that they can actually have a chance of blossoming into something. And it was there really that I started, and I taught women to read in prison, which is probably again, a really, you know, really satisfying thing to do. And 2 of those have now done degrees in English at really quite prominent universities, because I didn't realise that people couldn't read in this country.
No, they can't. They can't read.
Like you, I'd heard it on Radio 4, but I hadn't really viscerally felt it because it didn't apply
and understand the barriers to leading a normal life in society. If you can't read or write properly, my husband has a guy that works for him, the odd job guy. He's barely literate. He is barely literate, and he just struggles with everything, and often ends up, well, he's got a drink problem as well. My husband's very kind in that he still gives him work, because that's about the only thing this guy's got going for him. And I don't think the mainstream society understands that what's open to this guy and his family is nothing. I mean, he ends up in trouble all the time because he just can't cope with the world. Can you imagine trying to navigate a banking app when you can't read?
Well, this is it. You know, this is the whole point. But what I realised with a lot of these people was that they were just like you and me, right? You know, it's a lottery out there where you're born, which side of the street you're born on, etc. and so forth. It's a complete lottery, right? So I vowed there to sort of do something to really change the perception of entrepreneurship from people who didn't have any money, because with ex-offenders, it's often the case that they think of them as stupid.
They're not.
That they are just thick, you know, and therefore... But actually, you're a victim of circumstances. These people are far from thick. I'll tell you that right now. They are so resourceful. And I've always thought, you know, if you're dealing with drug dealing gangs, you know, these were brilliant salespeople.
Absolutely.
See, to keep things in them, or stocks and shares merchants, you know, because they can do figures, bang. They're usually very numerate. If they're dyslexic, I mean, this is just, you know, I'm not an expert, but this was just my observation. The more dyslexic they were, the more really innovative coping mechanisms they were able to deploy to survive. And that is innovation, right? That is thinking around the problem, through the problem, and actually not being left to
You have to be creative.
Absolutely. So I just thought, you know.
So I need to go back and ask you about the Ponzi scheme, because I didn't know about that. How did you get involved in that?
Well, basically, obviously, I wasn't, you know, so I've got typical again, by accident. I have a master's in international commercial law, right? Now, my passion was shipping law. I never qualified as a shipping law solicitor, but really, in my heart of hearts, that's sort of what I wanted to do, because I was fascinated by international freight, international trade, shipping lanes. I don't know why, you know, there must be something in the runes of my past life. Maybe I was a master mariner, or maybe I was
is interesting.
Maybe I was a pirate or something. I don't know, who knows. But So I met this guy who told me all about, he runs a scheme and it's an investment scheme, and he provides forward credit, if you like, to people who offload goods from vessels. The type document of title with regard to vessels is called a bill of lading. So it's an inventory of all the goods. And if the inventory doesn't precisely match that which, say, if you're getting finance, you'll have the finance document. So they all must match, right? So if there's any discrepancy, nothing happens. You can't offload, or, well, you can offload, but you have to go into a bonded warehouse. And of course, they charge money per hour usually. Or worse, if you can't do the bonded warehouse because it might be a port that doesn't have any bonded warehouses, or maybe there's no room, you pay this thing called demurrage, which is basically a fee for every moment that the ship is actually delayed, because the ship is a working vessel and people pay for cargo freight and all kinds of things. So you pay a fine basically. So the idea was that, hey, I'll finance all this stuff. And I thought, well, great, because he knew Inco terms, he knew international trade terms. And I thought, God, this can't just be this can't just. Anyway, so off we went. 3 years later, we've made loads of money. Of course, all our friends and family and business contacts and everybody got involved, until one day I had a phone call from the Financial Conduct Authority that said, are you sitting down? Well, I just come out of the shower. So, thank God there was no Zoom. But, and firstly, when do you ever get a phone call from the FCA, let alone they ask you, are you sitting down?
I know.
So we think this is a fraud, and I was
oh my God,
the guy who did it, in the sense I didn't know he perpetrated fraud, obviously, because it was my own money, it was clients' funds, blah blah blah. So we were feeding this sort of entity, and it wasn't just us. There were banks involved, and there were other people. So basically that was all frozen, back, all frozen. So I was in a situation where I had no warning overnight. I tell you, the date was the 15th of November 2008. Bang, everything was frozen.
Goodness
me. I had a £42,000 a month mortgage bill to pay.
What?
Well, I had 68 buy-to-let properties and my own house in London. Goodness. So suddenly my income had stopped overnight. Now, of course, I still had the income from property left. So the story with the police went, well, she lost all her money in the fund, therefore she needed to supplement her income through her property portfolio, and that's how she decided to do it. It makes sense. You can just see how they would have narrated it, except when it doesn't make sense, when you would ask the most obvious question in the world. Well, if that is so, where is the money?
Yeah, where is it now then?
And nobody seemed to think that was a salient question to ask. I wish to God I'd represented myself in hindsight. I really, really do.
Right.
Because I'm not a criminal lawyer. I don't profess any huge expertise in that area, but I think I would have given people a good ride for their money and asked the most obvious commercial questions. If you're going to do something like this, you just lost a lot of money. Let's assume you're doing it for money. You're going to have to receive some money, and
somewhere.
Somewhere along the line, you're going to do, you're going to take a risk reward analysis of the whole thing, aren't you? You're going to say, well, does it, what would happen if I was caught? How long would I go to prison for? You're going to sort of work it out. Well, there were various figures sort of bounded around that I'd made 10 million or I'd made millions and I'd squirreled it all offshore. Well, that's all well and good, but there was me thinking at the time, but surely they have to actually be able to evidence all of this. You can't put a suspicion on. Then I discovered all about the laws of conspiracy. Well, apparently, all you need to do is, all that needs to happen is you need to know one person in the conspiracy. You don't actually have to know what they're doing. So I did know one person in the conspiracy.
Right. Okay.
But of course, I didn't know what they were doing. So it was de facto a circumstantial evidence-based prosecution, because our story did not quite fit into the bylines of the ordinary.
Right. I'm with you.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Did you know at TriCrest, we've built a kick-ass culture coach and consultant program? So if you're a business coach or consultant and you're looking for something new, add to your toolbox, or even escape the 9 to 5, join us at our next event. Links in the information on the podcast. See you there.
With you. Okay, so my question now, Eleri, my microphone keeps messing about, is with all that going on, and you had a drink problem, how did you keep sane? How did you maintain your resilience? Because, you know, one of those things would have broken a lot of people, you know, 2, 3, 4 in a perfect storm over a fairly short period of time.
Yeah, I mean, my recovery date, or my sobriety date, as we refer to it, is the 16th of October 2012. So I was very lucky that I'd entered AA. That's how I did it. There's plenty of people to do it. And I decided to, you know, I just handed my will and my life over to a power greater than myself. I know that sounds a bit weird for people to say, but I literally did. I made the decision one day. I came in, you know, half a glass of wine left from something like 11 o'clock or something. And I can remember making, you know, seeing 2 choices literally in front of me, live or die. And I had to choose one. And I can remember it as stark as that. And I chose life, in the infamous words of Catherine Hamlet. You know, I chose life. And from that moment onwards, I started to go to AA meetings every single day, sometimes twice or 3 times a day, and staying sober in between. And I just found another purpose in life. You know, and I haven't touched a drop of alcohol since. And that's how I did it. Because I'd found a purpose. You know, some people say, oh, you need to get religion. But, you know, so I knew from that moment onwards, whatever trials, tribulations, turbulations, whatever happens, as long as I don't take that first drink, I'll be fine.
Yeah.
And I was fine.
Yeah. And because
I took the attitude of gratitude with me. I took the idea of, look, you know, this can happen to anybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Because, and I didn't feel embittered towards the courts, towards the jury, or towards the prosecution, because I can totally see how, taken under one lens, see people would say, yeah, well, it's obvious what she would have done, you know. And I thought, you know, I'm not going to spend the rest of my life trying to seek justice. What is the point?
Yeah.
They're not going to believe me anyway. And it'll be very much like the lady doth protest a bit too much scenario. Yeah. So I thought, you know, better to sort of try and serve other people and take from this experience things that I can actually hand back to people. Not because I'm sitting there in judgment on them, but I can just say, look, this is what happened to me, and these are the steps that I took. And if what I've done attracts you,
then join in. Yeah, it's a great leveler, and you do give back to entrepreneurs. So the Love Entrepreneur Group Fellowship, I like the way you describe it as a fellowship. How does it work? How does it run? Because there'll be people on here who perhaps do want to join.
Oh, sure. Well, absolutely. Well, the first thing to say is it's not like a forcedentry.com affair. You know, it's got to be right for you, and you've got to be right for us. And it's very much, you know, are you somebody that gives back spiritually to people? Do you believe in helping others? You know, it's very much giver's gain. So we don't force you to sign up or join in. What we say to you, come along for about a month or however long it takes for you to make the right decision for you. Yeah. Because what we're doing is we're curating a bunch of people, entrepreneurs, who or from all different sections of the world, who genuinely want to help other people survive and thrive. Yeah. And collectively, we're like a ship. We all help each other float, and we all rise collectively. There's not that, you know, there's no point being the richest person in the graveyard. You know, that's how we do it. And they can come with an idea, and they can get feedback for free. As I say, it's free to do a big fix. Anyone interested in doing so, maybe you can give them my phone number. You know, I'm very much somebody who's quite hands-on. You know, we then take them on a coaching journey if that's what they want to do, because it has to be their decision. Because like you, we've spoken about this, I really believe that if you don't have a vision for you, you've got nothing. Because if you don't have a vision for you, you will succumb to the tailwinds of other people's views, and suddenly you're controlled by everybody else out there. Yeah. So, and then we fund businesses then. So we do so through the SEIS scheme and a combination of currency that we use, so silver currency. And that's it. I mean, the other thing to say is that we in Love Entrepreneurs very heavily promote people using this wonderful currency that the company called Silvertree has come up with, which is a currency that we now use within our network for our members to trade with each other using. So they don't have to necessarily use cash because they may not have cash. So that's what we do. So, and we welcome, I deal with ex-offenders. There are some ex-offenders in our midst. Nobody knows apart from me.
And why should they? They've served their time. That's it.
Well, that's right. They've served their time. Whatever it is, let's just get on with it. People are interested in making good business deals. People are interested in helping other people. And quite frankly, they're more interested in what are you doing now and what business are you running now and how can we help that from moving forward rather than sitting in the past and, sitting in reverse, because that doesn't help anybody.
Yeah. And there's something about, and I'd be interested to hear your views on this. A lot of people don't understand the AA process, but there's a lot of forgiveness in AA, and there's a lot of apologizing for things that you might have done to hurt people in the past so that you can move on and other people can move on. And I think we need to have more of that in our society, and that we're all human. We make horrific mistakes because we're human. We make really bad decisions from time to time, but that doesn't make us a bad person. And in fact, often it makes us a better person because we understand what it is to hit rock bottom or, experience great loss, and to feel a bit daft that we've done something that was a bad decision and moved on from it. I actually think that makes you a better human being rather than somebody who's just played it safe all their life.
I mean, it's like this whole nonsense that you have when politicians actually have the humility to apologise or change their minds. People suddenly go, oh, this is a really bad thing. I'm thinking, actually, no, this is a hugely important thing, because we are not deities. We are not gods. We are human. We will make mistakes, and we'll also make decisions. You see, this is the other thing, there's a difference between making a decision in one context and making a decision in another context. Decisions need to be framed within the contextual lens in which they're taken, when respect.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's easy for us to say, oh, well, of course I wouldn't have done that. Well, how do you know? One has to stand in someone's shoes first to know what you've done, because we don't know. It's a bit like immigration, isn't it? It's easy to say, oh, well, what an awful thought, immigration. Well, you try running away from war. We don't know what that's like in this country, right?
No, we don't. And I was listening to a podcast the other day, and, America has never had a global war on American soil.
No.
Yeah, it's had civil wars, and obviously it didn't treat the indigenous population terribly nicely. But it's never had an invading army on its land. And I think that does something to a psyche of a nation. So that you understand what it is to be under the rule of law of somebody else's rule, and understand how that makes you feel, how it affects your daily life, your family life, your business life, whatever, educational life. So I often think I love America and I love Americans, but I often think, well, you're a bit naive sometimes because you've not really had that enormous sort of detrimental.
Well, they haven't had, I've just finished a book called The Liberation by Kate Furnival. Kate Furnival, brilliant book, and it talks about the liberation of Italy.
Right.
Sort of. Well, firstly, it takes you through Mussolini. Then you've got the Gestapo. Then you've got the Allied forces, mainly American and British, and the hardship that those people went through. Often not spoken about. The same with Flanders. The same with I mean, Britain had it. Okay, we were bombed, but we never had an invading force.
We did not. No.
And I think that is, and it's very easy for us all to say, oh, well, and I think C.J. Sansom in Dominion writes a fantastic narrative of what would happen had Hitler invaded Britain.
Oh, right. I've not read that. That would be interesting. Yeah, that would.
And I think, we just need to remember that we are not yes, we have nationalities. Yes, we have different languages, but that contributes to interest, different ways of doing things. Again, innovation, entrepreneurship. So we have more things that unite us than divide us.
More.
And if we could actually just focus on the things that unite us and make us better than the things that divide us, it's just a waste of energy.
It is. It's a huge waste of energy, and we're just people trying to do the best we can with the resources we have available to us. That is it, really. Yeah. No, I totally agree. So where are you taking Love Entrepreneurs? Where's the next phase for it?
Well, I'm trying to expand it. So I'm looking for people, whether they have a business or coaches, people who are interested in taking groups, taking this to more people out there, so that more people can get the benefit from just other people's random ideas and thoughts. So, again, anyone that is curious about what we do, I'm very, very, very interested in hearing from you, because I think this is a great opportunity for you as a business owner or a coach to stand above others in a way, and actually curate interesting groups of people with like-minded views, and actually, help others to grow. There's a huge amount of satisfaction that you get from when someone turns around and silently says, "Thank you for that idea. That actually was a great catalyst." It's a bit like the Clash, that was it the Jam, was it what a great catalyst you turned out to be. There was a friend in the fellowship actually that's really struggling as an entrepreneur and needs to go and get a job, and she used to work for the oil industry, and I just said to her about 3 weeks ago, I said, "Why didn't you phone the company that you used to work for and see if they'll make a job for you?" She did, and now she's got a job, earning more than her husband.
Great.
But that's Brilliant. The power of sharing an idea with somebody else.
Yeah, really important. So if your business had a personality or a character, Eleri, how would you describe it, or who would it be?
I don't know. Probably a lion. Yeah, probably a lion.
A lion.
Yeah, I'm a bit like a lion. Or a tiger. I just don't give up. I'm like a stealth weapon. I stealthily continue. Sometimes tortoise, sometimes hare, but I sort of never give up. I'm like the Duracell battery.
I love that. You need that. You absolutely need that. And what's your purpose, do you think? What's your purpose or your destiny?
God knows. I don't, that sounds really quite grandiose, doesn't it? What's your purpose or your destiny? I think, no, on a serious note, my purpose, my only purpose really, is to keep things right-sized in life and actually just remember every single day that I am there just to help other people, just as they are there to help me.
Yeah.
That is it. It's not about a competition of how many people can you help, how many awards can you get. I mean, I've never been given an award in my life other than from winning the solo when I was about 13 in the Eisteddfod, in Wales, but that was years ago. So it's about doing the work. It's about keeping people through, I suppose, my story, trying to say to them, look, this is just my story. It's no better or worse than anyone else's story. It's not a competition.
No,
it's just an example. I mean, when I left prison, as you know, Rebecca, I mean, I had 43 quid as a discharge grant, and I'd gone from 68 properties to nothing. I was homeless, but I had this vision in my brain, and you often hear of entrepreneurs saying that. It's not about how poor, how rich you are. It's about that vision for you. And that's what you hang on to. Yeah. So we wanted to create a fellowship of people that would really encourage others to hang on to that vision. And we believe in people even when they don't believe in themselves.
So important. So important. Many people don't believe in themselves. And you and I think if you're in any kind of coaching role, you can see the potential in people, and you can see what they're capable of doing, and they just can't see it in themselves yet.
That's true. Yeah, that's so true. And you know what? That's really frustrating when that happens.
Yeah. We have coaches like that join our program, and they often are some of the best ones that I know are going to make it, but they don't think they're good enough, and they think somehow that they need to, I don't know, go off and do more serious qualifications, shall we say.
I know. It's got nothing to do with that.
No, I know. It's like, it's nothing to do with that. You've got the raw material there. You are enough, and they just don't think they are. It's really interesting.
And often it's those people that
absolutely.
actually can bring the message down to a humble, translatable way.
Absolutely.
Are the people who make the best coaches, rather than trying to prescribe.
Totally.
Because by prescribing, you're creating that culture of dependency. What you want is to inspire others to use the tools that you've used and say, hey, now go forth to the next generation and multiply, which is really what you want.
Definitely. Amazing, Eleri. I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours, because you've had such an interesting life. We haven't even covered Ukraine or anything like that, but that's fabulous. I wish you all the luck in the world with your business. We finally got the internet working, so thank you, Internet Gremlins.
Internet Gremlins. Thank you, Internet Gremlins. Yes.
And all the links will be on the show notes, so thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
The Entrepreneurial Journey podcast. We're talking business and building a culture that's kick-ass.